So it's now official that Ubisoft is actively working on remaking some of the Assassin's Creed games. And I thought about what are actually those games that could benefit the best from a new game or from a remake in today's day and age with modern graphics and a modernized gameplay and story. Obviously there is Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 4, that is probably the most requested Assassin's Creed game that should get a remake, but I already made a full video around that game and why a remake would be a good idea. So in today's video I thought about games that don't come to mind immediately, that would definitely be a lot better if given a bit more time and thought and with modernized technology. So here are my top 5 Assassin's Creed games that really deserve a remake. So the first game that we are going to talk about in today's video is Assassin's Creed 4 Freedom Cry. Obviously this isn't a full Assassin's Creed game, it was first created as a DLC to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, then later it came out as a standalone game. So when it comes to the gameplay, obviously we do a lot of those things that we already did in Assassin's Creed 4. We have great ship battles, the combat is exactly the same as in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, as are other gameplay mechanics. However, in my opinion, Assassin's Creed 4 Freedom Cry tells one of the best stories in the whole franchise, and obviously this being only a DLC to Assassin's Creed 4, it isn't nearly as popular as full Assassin's Creed titles. And the fact that we already know Adewale from Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, and he was one of the most beloved characters in that whole game, really creates a big depth of character when it comes to him, and the game has a lot of possibilities with his character that it actually also used quite well in the game. And in the game we have some additional things that we can do, like, for example, freeing slaves. Obviously Adewale has a past, he was a slave himself, so it's a little bit different than with other Assassin's Creed characters. And a remake for this game would definitely make a lot of sense. Obviously better graphics, updated gameplay mechanics, so it isn't the same as in Assassin's Creed Black Flag. But in my opinion the biggest thing that it could change is that the story of the original Freedom Cry is just way too short. As I said, it is an extremely well written story and one of the better ones in the Assassin's Creed franchise. However, it takes only 5 hours to complete, and you could really see that the game lacked time and money maybe in order to create a bigger and longer story. Obviously in the last couple of years we had the problems that the stories became just too long, but this one is one of those games that I wish had a longer story, and that is definitely one thing that a remake could fix. Now the second game that in my opinion definitely deserves a remake is Assassin's Creed Rogue. And the problem with this one is that Rogue was developed and came out the same time as Assassin's Creed Unity. And obviously Unity being the game for the newer consoles and the flashier game, the focus in development definitely was on Assassin's Creed Unity. And you could really feel that while playing Assassin's Creed Rogue. Listen, it definitely has one of the most interesting approaches in the whole franchise. I mean, for the first time we actually play a Templar that was an assassin in the first place, and there was such an interesting and new thing to see, because obviously the whole series we've known the assassins to be the good guys and the Templars to be the bad guys. But this game kind of really made us think, well, are the assassins actually the good guys? Because some of the things that the Templars do and want really don't sound like things that villains would make. And Rogue, similar to Freedom Cry, feels too similar to Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I mean, think about it, we now play a Templar, and thus, in my opinion, also some gameplay mechanics, some stuff should change and should be drastically different from playing an assassin. And it has another similar problem to Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry. The story is 10 hours long, which is definitely longer than Freedom Cry's. However, it still feels like it only scratches the surface and doesn't really use its full potential that the game has. And as I said in the beginning, obviously the focus was on Unity, but if you would remake this game with obviously better hardware, better gameplay and some improved things that actually set this game apart because it is a Templar game, I think this game would really be able to shine again. So the third game that we're going to talk about today is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. And listen, first off I got to say, none of the Assassin's Creed games featuring Ezio really need a remake. They are one of my favorite games in the whole franchise and really made me fall in love with Assassin's Creed. However, there are some things that I would absolutely love to change in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. The first one being, well, kind of selfish. However, I really want to experience the open world Rome from Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in a modernized graphic. I mean, it is one of my favorite open worlds, and to be fair, also the time period was such an incredible and interesting time period, and it looked incredible already in 2010 when the game came out in the first place. And imagine the same open world in today's day and age with modernized graphics. I mean, it would look absolutely incredible, and that definitely is something that I would love to experience. And another thing, one of the few things that really pissed me off are those things. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it really destroyed the immersion that we sometimes felt, you know. When I play the game, I really want to have this adventure and explore things, and those weird barriers really destroyed some of that adventurous feeling that I used to have. And listen, I do not mean to make the open world smaller. I personally have a better idea how you could fix that problem. In order to get access to those regions that are closed in the beginning of the game, you need to renovate those things. You need to renovate the Colosseum, for example, or the monuments. Why don't make it different and actually show those monuments but destroyed in the beginning of the game, so that you can still explore and the immersion doesn't get destroyed by those weird, flashy, white barricades that just pretty much are pointless totally. Just show those monuments in a destroyed fashion, and then after we renovate it, we can properly explore them like we could in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. That, in my opinion, would definitely be the best option for such a game, and would definitely do a lot for the immersion of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. And the next game that, in my opinion, definitely deserves a remake is Assassin's Creed 1 from 2007. And I think this remake is probably the most likely option that we will get in the next years. And I mean, it makes sense, you know, it's the first game of the series. And it was such an innovative game that Ubisoft created in 2007 with so many new additions that the gaming world hasn't seen before. However, it still has some downsides. Obviously, the game being as old as it is, it looks like a 17-year-old game. And also the combat system is very simple and will get boring pretty quick. It's the same thing with a lot of games that came out of that era, where the combat really doesn't feel on the level of the whole game. And when it comes to the exploration, I mean, the 3 cities definitely are very well made. However, outside of that, you know, there isn't really much things to do, and the game doesn't really force us or make us want to explore this open world. Like, we can collect some things that are basically completely unnecessary, and this adventurous spirit that we have in so many Assassin's Creed games doesn't really come out in Assassin's Creed 1. And a remake could literally change all of those things. You know, make the combat better, make the open world a little bit more interesting and engaging. Obviously update the graphics, and maybe when it comes to the missions that were quite stale, you know, beat somebody up, kill somebody, listen to 2 people talking, and that's pretty much it in the whole game. And if we could remake and rethink those mechanics and update and make them better, Assassin's Creed 1 would be one of the best remakes out there. And the game that, in my opinion, would benefit the most out of a remake, because all of those games that I just mentioned are great games. However, Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, in my opinion, would definitely benefit immensely from a remake. Because in my opinion, there isn't another game that has so much potential, it somehow ruins it as much as this one did. And I mean, listen, the chamber system alone, in my opinion, was such a great addition to this game. Because in the game we can actually play as 3 different Evelyns, if you want to call it that way. You, on one hand, can play as a slave persona, then you can play as a rich lady, and the third option is that you obviously play as an assassin. And all of those 3 things make the world react differently to us. If we play as an assassin, the guards will always come at us and try to kill us. However, the parkour is better and faster that way. If we play as a rich lady, we can walk around the world with no hesitation, and the guards will keep looking at us, whistling, and just behave like men basically. But if we play as the rich lady, we cannot climb, which is a big disadvantage. And if you play as the slave persona though, it is kind of a mixture of both of those worlds. You know, the guards won't attack us, however we can still climb up things and do the parkour. Well, theoretically, this is a great idea and a great innovation that the game had. However, practically we most of the time only use the slave persona because the advantages are just so much bigger than from the other outfits. And when it comes to the story, it definitely doesn't rank amongst the best ones. However, the game tells it so incredibly badly. It's literally out of this world. The boss fights are so dull and boring. Some characters literally pop up and disappear like they never even existed. And there are just no real highlights, cliffhangers, or things that are memorable from this game. And so if a remake would actually be able to combine those two things, you know, take the chamber system seriously, so that we actually use all three of the outfits, really rethink the story and give it more time and more thought in order to make it more interesting and create some memorable things and characters from the game that we will actually think about when we finish it. That will literally make the biggest difference if this game would get a remake like that from the original. And so those were my 5 games that would benefit the most from a remake. As always, I'm very interested in your opinions, whether you see it the same way with especially Liberation, that in my opinion really had a lot of potential but completely ruined it and didn't become the game that it could have been. Or do you have other games that in your opinion would benefit as well from remakes that I didn't list in today's video? As always, write your opinions down in the comments and I'll be very happy to read those. Alright guys, that was it from me in today's video. I wish you all an amazing day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.